Hello everyone. So today I wanted to go over how to design a dungeon that goes from start to finish, and at the finish you can come back around and leave through a little coded setup for a raising door. So I've already built it, and the video actually ended up being a lot longer, and I don't want to take up too much of your time in order to go through this video. So I did a cave system for this as a little dungeon. So you got your little entrance over here and it comes on down. So you want to be able to design it based off of the culture and everything that the people who built this entire cave is using it for. If it's a mine shaft, then go ahead and make it like a mine shaft entrance, everything, build your rocks around, cut it in, and we've gone through over multiple videos where we talk about how to put this little visibility and set up the landscape. I used two landscapes to design this. One is for the cave itself, the other is for the actual landscape where the rest of the game takes place. So in here, you'll notice that there are two paths. So how I set this up is I got a little thing blocking to where you can't go that way. And I actually designed a map, and I designed it based off of the mechanics I had in mind. Mechanics I had in mind, and the idea of the thing was dungeon with loot point checkpoints for easy start returning, allowing for a fun playthrough using mechanics to design puzzles for players to get past in order to finish the level and return to the start point without having to retreat back through the entire dungeon. The mechanics we have in mind are sprint, crouch, climb, jump, vault, jump, catch, and locked doors. So we had to go through and make every single one of those. So then I wanted to design the area. So what I did is I designed the main room first. And then I went and I designed and made sure that there were two exits. So that way I already have it set up to where I have one's the checkpoint, one's the start. And then I used a color system to design the room area. So this first one, I had it go through and go away from the exit area. So that way it makes the player think that, okay, so this is going to be a pretty decently length little dungeon. And it goes on down to this room that has a little black square. And that black square is an area that goes down. And it leads into this next room right here. But this is meant to be directly underneath. That's why the arrow points from there to the other room. From there, we've got the rest of that room, and it connects to its path that goes along and goes into that first little actual puzzle room. And that's where we're going to be able to start doing our cube grid and designing everything. From there, we can go left after you've completed this puzzle area and go through and head up. And that's where our final big puzzle is, the one that's supposed to be a lot more difficult, a lot more innovative, and introducing the player to some of the mechanics and making them use them. As well as the yellow stands for that's where the key for the exit is located. So once we had this all done, all I had to do was go through and sculpt the landscape into position. With the landscape sculpted into position, then I just started creating and setting up the little puzzles. So when you go through and you come on out over here, there's a path that goes down, and here's an area you could set up a little bit of lore pieces and all sorts of other things. But that would be going into more of the environment art. Of course, you would have to, if you have set lore pieces, you would want to set it up with the level design ahead of time as well, and then make it look really good using that environment design. So once you get through here, this is just meant to be the area that kind of lowers it down, makes you go deeper inside. You come on through and you turn over, and here's where your first little puzzle room is. So this is where that little construction would be. Of course, this would be replaced with rocks and stuff. And then you have a little wooden area with a door. And then they come on through, and here's our first puzzle. So I built this using a cube grid. So if I hide the floor, I used a cube grid in order to design a little puzzle room. That's Shift 5, and then you hit Create. A cube grid right here. And then I built it and I placed my little traversables along here and I aligned it to work with the landscape. Over here is a little area that you're able to see through. So if I unhide and I rehide I don't have to hide up there. So in here, we got the little spot right here that allows you to see through and like, okay, so there's a path there. I know I can get over there. So where can I go to get around there? And you're wanting to look at this from the player's perspective. You already know the way through your dungeon. So your eyes are almost worthless in this. You have to look at it from the player's perspective. And from here, there's only one thing that really sticks out other than the path that you could see. And that's that you can go above and go over. But it's also that there's this extruded point right here that is connected right here. And I can even make this a little bit easier for the player to notice by having little spots for it to kind of set down from. And that would really be where it stands out and allows it to be held up. And this leads over to our little puzzle spot if they follow it with their eyes, which most people will. So because you've told it and placed it along there, you've intentionally used their subconscious to guide them through. So their eyes will almost always follow this line along to this path over here. And once they see this, they'll know that, okay, they can use that to get up and get over and get across. By the time you've gotten to this dungeon, you should have already introduced them to the mechanics of being able to climb up stuff. That's all baseline stuff that you should be doing prior to the dungeon so they know the mechanics ahead of time. So once you go here, the player climbs up and then jumps across. And then they come over and they drop down from the other side. Now they can't get back. Or you could put a little lever right here that raises this up into the wall, and now they have a way to go back as well if they want to be able to exit through this way. So then over here, we got a few little meshes that they can jump over. Just some fun little spots for them to play with. And then right here is just low enough that if I step forward, they have to crouch underneath it to get through. And then they're introduced to this little puzzle right here. I have a door here, and they're like, okay, so, all right, I can just keep going forward. And then they don't have anywhere to go. So it's like, oh, well, I see these little platforms up here. How do I get up there? They come back here and they see the little path. So you might be wondering, what's this wall over here? So this wall over here is designed in case you want to set up an extra little room right here. So if I drag this over, I can go ahead and duplicate it across. And this would be what I would be calling a little lore room. So if you're doing something like this, you tend to have a bit of lore going on with your dungeons. So you want ways to be able to tell the lore of the spot, so you need rooms for just that. That aren't used for anything but sharing the lore. So we raise this up. Oop, we need to duplicate this, slide it up, and bring it over and hide this room. This little X area. So you can even flop this down and drag it across. There we go. So now we've got this little extra room that the player can access. And if they fall, they can notice it as well. They can come over here and, oh, I didn't raise it enough. So now that they can access this room right here, you can set some lore and everything in there. Oh, I guess the character is really tall. And now you've got an area where they can find lore and a bunch of other little things, and gives them some more extra stuff to explore. But yeah, so once they come through here, you've set up an area where they can see, okay, that's where I need to go. So they see that there's a path laid out for them. And they can come over here and kind of climb on up. So we've taught them in the prior puzzle that they need to climb to be able to get to places. So now they know to look up. So this puzzle's a lot easier for them to figure out. But it's a lot longer, and it brings in the rest of their stuff. So now they got to go across and figure all this out. And now that you've got over here set up, you even got a little room right here you could play with too. So over here, I can climb up. And, okay, what is going on here? That was weird. So over here, I see that little door down there. And what I would want to do right here is, if I was designing this spot to be in an actual game, for that spot specifically right there, I would want to do a little thing where I kind of do a little graded, where they can't get down, but they can peek through. And so we can shrink all these to be very thin. And this is playing with the player's vision now. So now we take this and we turn it sideways 90 degrees, and we can place it over here. So what I've done is I've set a little cube thing over here so I can activate right there. I would want to place a little lever against that wall right there. So I could delete this one right here. And of course I need these to not be wide enough that the player can get through. So I need to shrink them just a wee bit. But I also need it to where the player can see through. There we go. So let's go ahead and delete these ones. And there we go. So now we've got a little spot that they can actually see through. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow them to see their exit down at the next area early. So while I'm up here, the player has this little spot they have to go through, and they can't get down, but they're able to see down there, and they see a little exit right there. So if they don't see that, if you do, they do see it, you can hit E right here, and it'll open up. And there we go. And another way we could do this is instead of doing it vertically, which this is probably the better way to do it, is horizontally. Duplicate it sideways, raise it up, and then raise up here. Of course, you would have to test and get the right height and everything. Make sure it fits your character very well. And from here, we can kind of duplicate it over and slide it on over, scale it over. So, all right. So once they've gotten through this puzzle, they need to be able to see down there. We're going to ignore the fact that it doesn't collide very well. Okay, so this part, I'm going to need to delete that because I don't need it really. Oh, I do. There we go. So right here, we can... Okay, I don't know why that's broken. All right, so when they're going through, they see that little thing down there, like, oh, okay. And some people might not notice, but I would put a little lever right here. And when I hit it, it opens that door down there. I could even make a camera go over and show it off. So now the player has completed the puzzle, and they can go on and leave through this area. But if they don't happen to notice the light right here where the key would be located, that allows them to go through the checkpoint. Or you can even set it up to where the checkpoint only opens from this side and then it's permanently open. So if I go over here and I spam E, nothing happens. So now they need to go back and grab this little key. Now that I've got the key, I can run on up and then I open it. And now we've gone through and looked at our entire level. It uses a lot of the design methods, and then of course you would do things like using lighting to show stuff off. So like if you wanted to show off over here, you could put a little light right here, maybe a torch that's sitting right next to it. And even better, you could have a torch that's sitting right next to it that is actually directly over your little key right here. And that could be the main source of light that's down here. And then, of course, you got little ones along the entire area to light it up properly so it looks well. Then in here, you would do the same thing. You would put the lights in here, but then you would also emphasize a light almost right next to or directly above where, not directly above, right next to it. And maybe even at a slight angle so that way they can see the little lore objects that you have placed in there, or you make the lore objects sparkle and a bunch of other things. There's so many ways that you can go about that. It's really how creative you want to be and how you can figure out how to set it up. But we've done a lot of things like leading the player's eyes so that way they see where the puzzles are going and leading them through. And then we've rewarded them from going all the way through with a quick exit at the end. So how this code works is it's pretty simple. I have it to where the character has a variable inside of it for a boolean. So my character is the CBP. So if I go to my character, CBP, sandbox character, I have a little variable in the blueprint tab right here. So if you click right there, here, you can create a boolean variable. And then I named it has key, and that's all it needs from right there. And then from my window, I need to press right click, add E key, and it would be E on here. When it's pressed, it goes into a branch, which when true sets a flip-flop, so that way it can go up or down. So I can make it to where it opens or closes. And the door itself has an animation that makes it roll up and open and close, so it just plays the animation. And then I have the flip-flop, which plays the animation, which I re-recorded and played it in reverse when I recorded that animation, so I have the forward and backwards version. And then I have the disable input delay. So it disables while it's going up and re-enables once it's done, and then it disables again while it's going down, yada yada. So how it works with the key is I have to set it to where when the target is overlapping with the box collision, the target is the CBP character, the character drags off and enables the input for the character's controller, and then once you leave that box, it disables it. But the character is used to drag off, and you can drag off and do has key, and then you can do get has key. And once you have get has key, you can connect it to the branch, and that is your condition. If it's true, it goes through and plays the code. How you pick up the key is you actually go to the key blueprint, which I have set up, which is the key, another box with collision, and then I have a little spotlight to show off its location. If this entire area was dark, that spotlight would work really well and it would show it off. So it's the same general idea. Event begin overlap sets it to enable based off the character, and it has to overlap with the sandbox character. And then it sets the key, the has key, to true. And then it destroys the key. So now you have the key, the variable is checked, and that allows you to open up that door using the key that you now have. But yeah, it's as simple as that. And then if I, the one over there, I actually have it placed in the level and I put it based off of where I wanted it to be located. Here's the box collision. I could use two blueprints and do the same cast Boolean node. I wouldn't even have to do the Boolean. I could do a custom event and have it go from there, cast to the other one and activate the custom event. And that would allow the door to open as well. But yeah, I have it set up here, so I go up here and I hit E and it just opens up. So instead of having it go through and have the Boolean, the Boolean, the branch, I disconnected the branch and just enabled the input to allow it to go through and hit play. So that way I don't have a requirement of having a key, I just have to go over there and hit that lever. But yeah, that's how I have that door set up and have it locked through. So over here I require a key to be able to get through this door. But yeah, so it's the great idea is to have all your mechanics in mind, make sure you know what systems are going into it. Okay, so the great idea is to know what systems, aka mechanics, you're going to be using in your game, how long you want that dungeon to be, and try and keep them concise. Figure out your player scale by placing them somewhere and moving that character along as you're designing. And then building up little previs sets using cube grid is not a bad idea. And then you can use your systems that you have set up in order to work with the cube grid. I use the traversables from the game animation sample pack, which is free on Fab. It's actually made by Unreal. And I can use these however... Oh, that's not going to work because it's on the top. Oh, that's probably why the other one doesn't work, actually, now I think about it. That makes sense. But yeah, so this allows me to really quickly set up an area. I have movement and everything, and yeah. So now I've got an entire level that I've got set up. You saw that it can play from start to finish. Over here, I've got the idea of teaching the player that there's a path there without allowing them to go through. It's something that's actually used in games like Assassin's Creed all the time. Especially in games that you can climb over stuff, like this one right here. But yeah, I know this isn't the most beautiful level, but I wanted to go through the level design aspects, usually how games look before you've even gotten to touch it or look at it. And this is stuff you never really see. So yeah, that's how you go ahead and go from start to finish on the design. You go through, you sculpt your landscape into place, and then you go ahead and you get your paths in, and then you cube grid your actual puzzles, previs, test. Use their eyesight, really guide them using lights and all these other little things. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot from it. I know it was a little different. I know it doesn't look like the best level ever. Hope you all understand that this information is usable from the start of the game to the end of the game. But yeah, I hope you all learned something. I hope you all liked it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I try to post every other day a new tutorial. And yeah, I hope you all have a good night.